Hello, my name is Roberto Gallardo, and thank you so much for your interest in the digital distress metric. We are proud to announce that it is one of the metrics that the center developed and is requested a lot. So, thank you so much for your interest. I just wanted to let you know a little bit of history behind why we developed the digital distress. And next, my colleague Ben is going to explain how to use the website. Um, as you know, the digital divide or digital inclusion or exclusion is a very kind of abstract concept, especially before COVID. It was hard for people to kind of wrap their heads around the concept. So we started thinking about how can we create a metric that is easy to understand and kind of conveys the message about digital distress or digital divide or something around those lines. So we decided to call it digital distress because we work a lot with economic development regions or economic development districts. And there is a very popular metric called economic distress. And so we felt that we should call it something like that. So we call it digital distress just because we felt that some people or many people were going to be used to the term distress and economic distress and so forth. So that's where the name comes from. We then, based on research and data availability, basically up until 2017, there wasn't really no internet data available from the census. There were some data sets here and there, but nothing consistent until 2017 when the census started publishing indicators that we felt could help us tell the story about digital distress. So we ended up using four indicators, again, based on research, but mostly on data availability. We wish we had more indicators, but the four we have, I think, show a very strong case for digital distress. So these variables are four of them. One is the percent of homes of households without internet access. Now, the census does not tell us why they did not have internet access. It just says that they did not. So we use that variable. Why? Because if you do not have internet access at home, you are more than likely to use it only outside of home in a meaningful way. Because if you do not have a home subscription, you're more than likely only using cellular data, which of course has limited data plans and typically is used with smaller screens. So that leads us to our second variable, which is the percent of homes that use the internet only with cellular data. Again, data limits exist, and so it makes it hard for homes to just rely on cellular data because they may run out of data, in the beginning of the month or halfway through the month or so forth. So that's a second indicator of digital distress. We also found through research that obviously using only mobile devices, no computers, no desktops, no laptops, is also could place a home in digital distress because it's harder to do more sophisticated applications online. For example, try completing a term paper, a high school term paper on a smartphone. It's hard. It's not impossible, but it does complicate things. So we felt that percent of homes with mobile devices only was also a proxy for digital distress. And lastly, we used percent of homes with no computing device, period. Obviously, if you have no computing device, you are not going to be using the internet, and so that also places the home in digital distress. So these four variables we were used to calculate the digital distress of low, moderate, and high. You can go to our blog post to figure out exactly how we did that. I'm not going to spend too much time explaining here, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background of what digital distress is, what variables were used, and why we called it digital distress. And we hope you find the tool useful. Next is going to come my colleague Ben to explain how to use the website where we calculated digital distress for every census tract in the country. So thank you so much for your interest and let us know if we can help in any way. Thank you. Bye bye.
Today we will be learning how to use the digital distress map most efficiently. We begin by looking at the map. However, before we demonstrate each part of the map, let us first review all the main components. The left and right side is where the widgets will be displayed. We will go in depth on how to use these widgets. But for now, let us quickly take note of each widget's name and location. First, in the top left corner, we have the Zoom In and Zoom Out button. Then we have the default map view, and lastly, the Find My Location button. On the right side of the map, we see the Search button, the Layers button, the Base Map Switcher, and the Measure tool. The map itself is for all 50 states, but we start by zoomed in on the lower contiguous 48 states. Digital distress is mapped on a census tract level. Currently, we have over 80,000 census tracts mapped. Each census tract will have about 8 attributes of information with it. These attributes are county and state, census tract identifying number, household, cellular data only, no internet access, mobile only, no computer device, and of course, digital distress indicator, whether it be low, moderate, or high. Let us take a moment to find what some of these indicators mean. Census tract. A census tract is a small, relatively permanent statistical subdivision of a county. A census tract contains about 4,000 people and about 1,600 housing units. Households. A household includes all the people who occupy a housing unit, such as a house or an apartment, as their usual place of residence. Cellular data only. A percent of homes with cellular data only or no internet access. No internet access. A percent of homes with no access to the internet. Mobile only. A percent of homes with mobile device only or no device. And no computer device. A percent of homes with no computer device. Now let us dig into some data on the map and focus on Alaska. Alaska has 176 unique census tracts. 12% of households do not have access to the internet. 15% of households have cellular data only, whereas 6% of Alaskan households do not have a computer device. Generally speaking, Alaska's digital distress is more low to moderate. On the map, the state looks mostly dark blue, meaning it would be high digital distress. But because Alaska's census tracts are so large, it can look misleading. 22% of Alaska's census tracts are in high digital distress, 39% are in moderate digital distress, and 38% are in low digital distress. The digital distress map provides a wide variety of information so you can calculate how your region is doing. The digital distress map was created by the Purdue Center for Regional Development and is currently hosted on their website. Thank you.